Hey everyone, it's Andrew Morgan, host of the Nomcast, the Netflix original movie podcast. Each week we review the biggest Netflix original movies with special guests ranging from film professionals to comedians to podcasters like Johnny Ganache from the legendary Pint of Comics. Listen and subscribe to us on iTunes, Stitcher, or wherever you get your podcasts, and be sure to follow us on Twitter at NomcastPod.
Hey there, this is John from Pint of Comics.
And I'm Lloyd, also from Pint of Comics.
And I'm the other John, and you get it by now. As you may know, we sometimes use language on this show that can be described as...
filthy.
Okay.
Reprehensible?
Crude?
Sure.
Nasty.
Oh, yeah.
Come on, guys. We all know that it's just plain out gutter talk.
You've been warned. Listen in.
Welcome to the Pint Movie Invitational Series.
I would appreciate it if you didn't yell at me in front of the entire office.
Excuse me, what?
The yelling.
Oh. You disapprove. I'm sorry. Did I hurt your feelings?
Oh, Lord. I like the sound of that. That sounds like a brand new episode of Pint of Comics cracking open. It is. So we've got Ganache, we've got the Manster, but you can't see this, but behind the Manster is just what I can only describe as his daughter is painting a painting, and it is currently in just head mode. There's just a head on a blue background of a young lady. Manster, what is the name of your mini co-host back there?
Geez, how about Esther?
Esther,
Yeah,
the girl who
Esther
lives in Manster's basement.
Yeah. She's kind of not so much glaring at me, but looking disapprovingly.
Yeah. Yeah, she is staring at you. Excuse me, I'm going to get a screenshot of this and put it up when the episode comes out.
Oh, there you go. I could take a good picture of it for you.
Yeah, get a good pic of that. And if maybe when the clock strikes midnight, if the picture bleeds out of its eyes, move the fuck out of your house. Okay. Yeah. It's just a suggestion because the painting is totally fucking evil. So you heard at the beginning of the episode, Andrew Morgan of the Nomcast. If you have never heard the Nomcast, check it out. It is the Netflix original movie podcast. Andrew and a slew of guests go over the latest and sometimes greatest and sometimes not greatest brand new Netflix movies. And he is, of course, the voice of the Pint Movie Invitational. So you heard Andrew, you heard him announce this is a Pint Movie Invitational. As you know, what that means is that we brought a special guest along, and we are going to talk about a movie of their choosing. Tonight's guest, there it is, he brought it up. He has it on DVD. Tonight's guest is I always use the word programmer, so we'll ask him in a second, but you guys all know Scary Larry Dwyer, and he comes on and he takes over and makes us watch The Wicker Man and all kinds of horror movies. And Larry runs Connecticut Cult Classics, which is an awesome double feature. I guess you would call it a bi-monthly. Is it bi-monthly or is that bi-monthly? Or is that
bi-monthly?
Bi-monthly. A bi-monthly event here in Connecticut where they show a couple of really cool movies together. $10. Go to www.connecticutcultclassics.com. Check it out. Right now, due to COVID, we're on a kind of pattern of nothing happening right now, but that's life. You're used to that. But
yeah,
so
we
Mike,
got those great Saturday nights.
Yeah, we've been doing a lot of great Saturday nights with Larry, where he kind of shows a movie on Facebook, and it's given us a little bit of solace. It's been a lot of fun too. But we miss Connecticut Cult Classics. Mike Simonetta, who has been on the show before. He was on the episode that Scary Larry did, Pipe Movie Invitational of the Greasy Strangler. Yeah. Very bizarre movie. Very, very bizarre movie. He also did, and this is a funny story behind this episode, we did top 10 character actors. Now, here's what's funny about that episode.
You haven't put that out yet, right?
Here, I'm going to tell you.
It's not funny yet, but it's coming.
That was that night that we recorded those two, that Lloyd was at a concert with his daughter who paints the ghost ladies. Was Sir John, myself, Larry, and Mike. We did those 2 episodes. That was the very last night that we have ever recorded here live. That was right before COVID started, and that was the last night we did anything at the 215 at my house.
It was February 29th.
It was, and that was what's cool about it. It was on like a weird day that only happens every 4 years, right? So that was the last night we did it here, and ever since then we've been recording directly on Zoom. Now, I finished up episodes, putting them out that were on my Audacity recordings, which is how I do it when we do it here. I've been doing everything on Zoom. I forgot that episode is still in that folder that I haven't looked at in 3 months because I've been using this folder to put these episodes out. So you've got a good episode coming out with Mike. It's almost forgotten, but it's a long one too. It's almost 2 hours long. We had a good time, but he's back. This will probably be out before then. Who knows? I don't know. And he picked a movie. But first, Mike, what do you call yourself? Do you call yourself the programmer? What is it you do for Larry at the Cult Classic shows?
So I'm the behind the scenes AV guy. So I once, we work together, and Larry and I, we talk about what kind of trailers we're going to have, what movies should we show. When he decides on them, I collect them, rip the trailers, put them together, burn them to disc. The night of the theater, I go in, I make sure the camera's running, everything's going, lights on and off, sound going, all that sort of stuff. So I'm behind the scenes, let Larry get up there, yell, scream, swear, in front of his children and introduce these wonderful movies. And then I'm just running everything behind the scenes. And it's worked out great. So I think I told you once when we did our Christmas interview, the first time we did it, Bite Night, the theater owner's son said, I'll put your movie on and we'll figure everything out. The movie night was great, but he completely screwed everything up. It was just a hot mess. Things turned on late. Sound was wrong, everything. And from that time on, I said, I can do this 1,000 times better. And we've
You're the man.
Just keep getting better from there. So
yeah,
you are the man.
You do a great job with that stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
Not to mention those shorts that you find. Those movie theater crazy. Where the hell do you get that stuff?
I scour the internet to find the most crazy, wacky stuff. Then Larry says, I don't know if we should show that. And I'm like, all right, I'm putting it on.
Of course.
One of my all-time favorite shorts that you ever showed, and I've watched it here a few times because I love it, is Jigsaw.
I knew it.
Jigsaw in an office environment.
Puppet. Yes.
Oh my God. So if you guys have never seen this, just go on YouTube and type in Jigsaw office. I would assume is how you'd find it. Yeah. And it is essentially takes Jigsaw the puppet, or what is that the puppet's name? Whatever his name is, the little bicycle riding puppet.
Yeah.
And
I don't know.
No,
I don't know what his actual name is. But
I don't.
Whatever.
What Billy? Is it Billy? Maybe. I don't know.
Jigsaw's fine.
Anyways, but from the movies, Jigsaw's a little character,
and
it's great.
It's so funny. It is so funny, and it makes me laugh so hard. And I think I found another one that you didn't show. So I think there's a series of these, if I remember correctly. But very funny, very funny.
I actually edited some of the out for time. There was a lot of scenes doing things, but I edited some out for time.
Isn't that one of the hardest things to say? Edited. Do you have a hard time with that? I hate that.
Yeah, well, no, I don't have a hard time with it. It's funny though, because I know you edit these shows, and people ask, like, how is it? And I'm like, I never want to see it again when I'm done, because you go over it and over it and over it and over it. And it's like, okay, it's perfect, it's great. I'm not going to look at it again for a year.
Well, we're big fans, right, Lloyd? We're big fans of what you guys.
Huge fans. Yeah. Half of the fun of the show.
It absolutely is. Lloyd, did you bring any this or that's for this? This or that's?
Oh,
you didn't. All right, I'll cut that out. Don't worry about it.
No, I have some.
Oh, do you? Okay.
Yeah, I can just. I remember a bunch.
Before we get into the movie you picked, Mike, Lloyd had been talking about doing a little this or that segment where he just asks you this or that. Pop culture, I'm assuming, or maybe some other things in there. And then
Anything
you tell us this or that. Like, what do you prefer? You like this or you like that? Kind of to gauge your personality as a person. All right? So we'll do a couple of these, then we'll talk about the movie you picked, and then we'll get right into the movie. So,
all right, we'll start really easy. Creamy or chunky?
Chunky.
All right.
Right choice. Right answer, by the way.
Let's see. Captain Crunch Berries or Peanut Butter Crunch?
Crunch Berries.
All right.
Again, a man after my own heart. Yeah.
Led Zeppelin or Black Sabbath?
Black Sabbath, but only with Ozzy. It's not Black Sabbath if it's not Ozzy.
Fair enough.
All right.
Let's see. The Thing or Alien?
This could be where I kick you off of the episode. Depends.
I have to say The Thing. Although Alien is also a perfect movie.
As good of an answer as you could have given.
That's a Sophie's choice right there. That's complete Sophie's choice.
Anything else, Lloyd?
Yeah, let's do one more. Trying to think of some of the tough ones. Little House on the Prairie or Full House?
Oof.
Both
are negatives in my book, but I'll put Full House because I do not like Little House on the Prairie.
Right.
And I know Scary Larry's his favorite show. I don't know why.
Oh, he'll never get that one.
All right. I've got one. This is the classic rock and roll one, right? Beatles or Stones?
Beatles.
Perfect. That you win the night. You win the night.
The non-award.
I got at least 100. I just forgot to bring my list down.
Yeah, no. I'll save it for everybody that comes on. We'll figure it out. So we kind of know a little bit more about Mike. One of the other things I like about Mike, I want to say this right now. I'm envious of you because I feel like I'm too late to go back. No social media, right? You're like no social media guy.
Nothing. I have nothing.
Wow.
And the perfect thing is there's somebody with my exact name in Connecticut who does wedding DJs.
I found him.
Everybody does that.
Because
everybody does that.
When we first, I think before we recorded the episodes we did, or maybe after we recorded the episodes we did, I knew that you didn't have Facebook, but I wasn't sure about Twitter. And I tried to tag him on the Greasy Strangler episode.
Yeah.
I tagged him. I put it out there. And then I just so happened to look at it and click on it. And it said wedding DJs. And I still thought it was you because I know that Larry does wedding DJ stuff as a side gig, right?
He does photo booths at weddings.
So I thought maybe that was with you.
Something else. Yeah. Nope.
And then I think I saw some pictures and went, that is not my Mike Simonetta.
That's not my Mike.
No, but it's perfect because people come in to work and they're like, do you do wedding DJs like on your time off? And I'm like,
Yeah, once in a while.
Sure.
Once in a while. Yeah, pay me now in cash, and I'll see you in May.
Exactly.
All right, Mike. What film did you bring to the Pint Movie Invitational?
So I brought a classic, 1994, Swimming with Sharks.
This is now right off the bat. I'm gonna get into it. This is a hard movie to define year-wise. Some places say 94, and some say 95. It came out, I think, at the Toronto International Film Festival.
Toronto Film Festival,
in September of 94. But it was released in America in April 21st of 1995. Okay. So I'd say you're right, 94, but with a 95 wider release date. And by wide, I don't mean super wide.
No.
I think this is going to go down, and I'm fine with this because I like these episodes, as one of those movie invitationals that people are going to go, what the fuck is this movie they're talking about?
I hope so. Yeah. I hope so.
I think I heard of that.
Yeah. And they need to go, and we'll get into it, but you need to go watch it. I think it's a great movie. It stars Kevin Spacey. Just get over it. He's a great actor. Whatever the hell happens off set.
Yeah, that's one of my notes, sort of.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'll come out and say it right off the bat. He's a shitball, right? He obviously is not a good person, But when it comes to art, this is where that old argument lies. And we're not here to talk about Kevin Spacey. We're here to talk about the movie. And Kevin Spacey's performance is obviously a big part of it. And no matter what he did later, which seems all reprehensible, it doesn't change the fact that he was a good. Hey, O.J. Simpson, guy could run over defenses left and right.
Kev never killed anybody.
No. Well, OJ
we know
either.
Well, OJ, sure.
If the glove doesn't fit, you must quit.
You're buying it, huh? All
yeah.
right.
No. I'm not buying nothing. No, but it's one of those things where the last two Pint Movie Invitationals we've had problematic lead stars because we're doing this episode with Kevin Spacey, who obviously his career is kind of flamed out because of, things he's done. And our last one we did, which hasn't come out at this point, was Star Trek: The Motion Picture with Stephen Collins, who, if you're not familiar with him, he got into a whole bunch of trouble for, I think it was molestation stuff and all this stuff. So
that's terrible stuff. But to go back, everybody says that William Shatner is an asshole in real life, but he's a great Captain Kirk.
Yeah.
And that's all that matters in a movie.
Yeah, I'm not arguing. I'm not arguing the fact with you at all. I want to talk about this movie based on the performances itself. And I do think that's important because it is true. It's hard to separate that sometimes. And I think that we're better here on the Pint to be able to look back on something and, hey, look, Kevin Spacey was great in Seven. He was great in The Usual Suspects. He was great in this movie.
All the same.
Nothing changes that. You're absolutely right. And I have to talk about that in a second. So this film was directed by a guy named George Huang. So
I think it's Wong.
Is it Wong?
Wong.
Huang. Huang. This is almost the definition of a guy who, now look, this movie, Swimming with Sharks, I have known about it for years. I certainly saw bits of it because when I watched it the other night, there were certain scenes that I remembered. You could kind of say that this is the guy's peak, though, because he really had. It almost seems like this movie could have been a great stepping stone for him if it had come out maybe on the other side of 95. So what I mean by that is this movie came out in April of 95, right? And a month before that, Outbreak came out where Kevin Spacey also starred in it. And at that point, Kevin Spacey was still very much kind of like a character actor.
Yep.
You go forward 5 months after this, August and September of 95, you get Usual Suspects and Seven. And now Kevin Spacey is a fucking megastar character actor where he's like really taken off into the stratosphere.
Didn't he win an Academy Award for Usual Suspects? Didn't he? Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
He even claims himself that he did this movie because he knew it would open doors for him.
The Swimming with Sharks.
Swimming with Sharks, yes.
See, and I agree with that, but the problem with this movie is I think if this movie, we'll talk about how much we liked it or disliked it at the end. If this movie had come out on the other side of Seven and Unusual Suspects, it would be a much bigger movie and it would be much more well known. People don't talk about Buddy when they talk about Kevin Spacey roles, and they should, because this is a great role and he kills it. I mean, people talk about Seven, obviously, John Doe and Verbal Kint, and they talk about
L.A. Confidential.
L.A. Confidential and the Glengarry Glen Ross. There's so many things they talk about, but you never hear anybody talk about Swimming with Sharks. And I think it's because it was released, small release, indie movie, 5 months early for him. If this thing came out after those other movies, I think a lot more people would have seen him. You guys agree with that?
Yeah, I see what you're saying.
I agree, and I think it's a lot like Glengarry Glen Ross, like because you said you've seen YouTube clips. It's got great scenes, just like everybody looks up, scenes from Glengarry Glen Ross, especially the sales pitch. But it's very similar. That I bet a lot of people have seen some clip of it. Somewhere along the line of Kevin Spacey yelling or being an asshole or whatever, but they probably never watched the whole film. So
right.
I think it's one of his classic roles. And you also have a super young Benicio del Toro buried in there for 2 minutes, but still, so it's good stuff. And I actually really like Frank Whaley as well. He never really took off, but I think he's a pretty good actor as well.
Always liked him. Me and Lloyd probably doesn't remember this, but like 2 or 3 years ago, we went to Rhode Island Comic-Con and we were leaving. It was the end of the day and we were in the celebrity, like there's this huge lineup on both sides, one side of the wall and then over here of the celebrities taking pictures, and all the Star Trek people were over there. I remember that year because Shatner was over on like the big wall.
Yeah, the big wall, huge line.
There was less people in his line than there were for the Stranger Things kids.
Yeah.
It was Stranger Things first year.
Yeah, that was
and
real
all
big at
those
the
little
time.
kids were getting mobbed. And as we walked out, the last guy sitting was Frank Whaley. And I hadn't seen him in a while. It was before he popped up on Luke Cage. He was one of the detectives on that.
He does a lot of TV.
He does a lot of TV now, yeah. And as I walked by him, he made eye contact with me, and he smiled, and I just said, "Dude, I love career opportunities." And he went, "Thank you very much." And I, just walked by, but it was a nice moment with Frank Whaley. Great actor.
Nice guy.
Seems like a super nice guy. So George Wang ended up directing. He directed this. A couple years later, he made his only other feature film called Trojan War, which stars one of the kids from, what was that show? Boy Meets World. And Amanda, not Amanda, what's her name? Love Hewitt. Jennifer Love Hewitt, as a young guy who is trying to, he takes out his dream girl on a date, but he loses the only condom he has. So I don't know. It doesn't sound like his movie career really took off. He did a couple television things. He did American Heiress and let's see. Yeah, a couple other things, significant others on television. He's also a writer. His probably biggest writing, I guess, credit other than Swimming with Sharks is in 2016, he wrote the Jean-Claude Van Damme-less sequel to Hard Target 2. So George Huang hasn't necessarily panned out, but hey, he made this movie. Thank you, George.
Yeah, he did it.
Yeah, and this was his baby because he wrote it, and it's based on a lot of bullshit he had or saw in Hollywood as he was coming up. So
yeah, because he was an assistant to a VP at Sony.
Yeah, so this was his baby, that he milked and got it together. And the beautiful thing for him is that he got really great actors early on. You look back now, and all these leads are really good leads.
Yeah.
So just another reason why it shouldn't be so unknown and so buried. But
hey,
all
John.
right. Yeah.
Do you know the actual name of the movie he wrote before it was turned into Swimming with Sharks?
I do not.
Real Life.
Real Life. REEL?
REEL.
Yeah. Good thing he changed it, because that sucks. That's not good.
But you remember was the name of the movie in Swimming with Sharks.
Oh, right. Yeah, the movie that he's trying to get made. Okay.
Correct.
All right. We're going to get to cast in 1 second. This was made on a $700,000 budget. It was only released in the U.S. It wasn't released wide. Total gross was $383,000. So this did not light the world on fire. I'm telling you right now, once again, if this was released on the other side of Seven or Usual Suspects, this movie would have made its money back based alone on the Kevin Spacey factor. He was hot at that point, and people would have gone and seen it, especially even in limited release. This movie, as I watched it, and I wonder if you guys feel the same way, I watched a lot of 90s movies growing up and a lot of independent movies, and this movie, it couldn't have been made at another time. This is a 1994,
Absolutely.
like 1992 to 96 independent movie, right?
Yeah. Well, and of course the fashions, big phones, beepers.
Yeah.
I mean, I was just thinking this week, I was thinking probably everybody under a certain age will just be blocked out by the technology.
Yeah.
Like what is it, a beeper? And he's going to go find
beepers?
a payphone to do what? Like, it's crazy. But That's what we did back then. So that's life.
That is. All right, Manster, give us the cast. It's a small cast, but give us the cast.
Yeah, it's a small cast. Starring Kevin Spacey as Buddy Ackerman. Like you said, Usual Suspects, 7, Outbreak. I think that came out that year.
K-Pax,
Pay It Forward.
Superman Returns.
Yeah.
Well, he was good in that.
He was.
I thought he was
Luther.
fun. Yeah, he was. L.A. Confidential, though.
Yeah, that's a great movie.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, so he plays the basically the VP of entertainment, something like that.
Yeah, he's like one of the higher production VPs.
Yeah.
For what's the name of the company?
Keystone Pictures.
Keystone Pictures.
Yep.
Keystone Pictures.
He's
Which,
a
by
VP,
the way,
and then his other people are president of production and et cetera. That's what
right.
It needs to be. So
Keystone Productions, which from the outside, the parking lot looks like it's a Super 8 motel. Like, I don't know. It looks like the world's smallest. And I get it. They had to probably film in like an office building or something. Yeah. But the scene where they go to park and there's nobody there. I don't know. Usually when you see like a studio in the movies, it's like bustling and there's always like people dressed like nurses walking across the alleyway and someone's on a motor cart. And this is just like nothing going on there.
I would say, well, but they play to that actually.
They make a funny bit out of it.
Yeah.
So then you have Michelle Forbes as Dawn Lockard. She's great. I love Michelle. I don't know if you guys ever watched.
She's in everything. She's
The Guiding Light.
Oh no!
Favorite soap opera of mine.
There you go.
She played dual roles in that. I think she won an Emmy for that.
Really?
Yeah, she played Solita and Sunny. Yeah, really good. So that's the first thing I remember her from. Star Trek: Next Generation. She was the medical examiner in one of my all-time favorite shows, Homicide: Life on the Street. She's in Battlestar Galactica, 24, The Killing.
True Blood. She was
True Blood.
Like one of the only seasons of True Blood that I watched. She was like the big bad for the season. And that
was a weird character that year.
Yeah. Battlestar Galactica, she was the commander of the Pegasus. She was Admiral Kane, a real bitch.
Yeah, she plays tough ladies.
Yeah.
And then, of course, you said Benicio del Toro. He played Rex for a couple minutes. Also from The Usual Suspects, Traffic, Sicario, number of other films.
Yeah.
License to Kill.
The
James Bond movie. He was one of the...
That was like his first movie.
Yeah. He's one of the bad guys' henchmen.
Yes.
And he might be one of those characters that doesn't even talk. I don't remember, but he doesn't have much.
Oh, yes, he does. He has that scene where he goes over the top and he goes, "We're going to give her a sweet honeymoon." He's so over the top in that. It's terrible.
Then you've got T.E. Russell as Foster Kane, the young director. Roy Dotrice as Cyrus Miles. Matthew Flint as Manny. Patrick Fischler as Mo. And Jerry Levine as Jack.
The Pep Boys.
Three Stooges. Yeah.
No, the Pep Boys.
Oh, was that their names?
Manny, Mo, and Jack. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, you worked for Pep Boys, right?
I did. Yeah, I did.
There you go.
Jerry Levine is in one of Larry's favorite movies. He is the best friend of Michael J. Fox's Teen Wolf.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, all through the 80s, he was the jerk on the side, the jerk friend.
And what, did you miss Frank Whaley?
I was going to say, you didn't say Frank Whaley.
I did. Did I? Oh, I did skip right over.
You skipped the
Holy shit.
The second star.
All right, we're going to have to do this all over again.
No.
Right.
But start.
Yeah. Frank Whaley as Guy, Buddy's assistant, replacing the Benicio del Toro character. He was memorably killed by Samuel L. Jackson and John Travolta in Pulp Fiction.
Yes.
Swing Kids, School of Rock, and several others that you guys can mention.
You know what he was good in? I'll tell you. Here's one. It's a good little horror movie, and maybe Mike doesn't like it. I'm always nervous when like Mike and Larry are on. Or you ever see Vacancy?
Yes, Vacancy. Another one. Yep.
It rings a bell.
Kate Beckinsale, hot, and Luke Wilson go to a motel. Yep. He's the bad guy. He's the scummy motel manager that's like trapping them there. He's got like a pencil. You always know someone's a scumbag when they got a pencil thin mustache. He's got a pencil thin mustache.
And he's got a bad wig in The Doors.
Yes, Robbie Krieger
Yeah,
in
the
the
Doors.
Doors.
Yeah.
Every time, I don't know what it is, if he's joking or not, and I don't know why there's been multiple times, but anytime I've ever talked to Larry about Frank Whaley, he just goes, fuck Frank Whaley. So I don't know if he really dislikes him or if it's just a weird joke.
That's why I said the bad wig. Larry claims that the bad wig on him and the rest of the band ruined the Doors for him.
Oh, no, I like that movie.
I mean, yeah, I thought it was it's not the greatest movie in the world, but I thought it was perfectly fine. And Val Kilmer's perfect. So,
yeah.
He basically inhabited the character.
Yeah.
But everybody else is just kind of, putting on a wig and pretending. Kyle MacLachlan looks bad. I think he acted fine, but I don't think Kyle MacLachlan fit in either. I think that's the part. You don't really buy them as teenagers in the 60s.
Right.
They kind of just like acting it out as opposed to Kilmer, who's killing it. But,
All right.
Anyways, that's where that comes from. That's where Larry, because he loves the Doors and the film is not perfect for him. So he gets uppity about it.
All right. Larry, Frank Whaley called. Frank Whaley called. He said, fuck you, Larry.
There you go.
So, Mike, why don't you give us the setup in terms of what this movie is about?
So I kind of see it as a dual movie. I think it's incorrectly sold as a comedy. I don't really think it's a comedy. I think it's more of a dark drama. But Frank Whaley comes in. He's our protagonist. We follow him in. He's replacing Benicio del Toro as Kevin Spacey's assistant. And Kevin Spacey is this high-ranking assistant in a movie, in the movie business. And Frank Whaley's new to the town, just moved out here from upstate New York, is eager and happy to go. And he gets belittled over and over by Kevin Spacey, decides to take him hostage, hold him hostage, torture him. And his concept is to punish Kevin Spacey for treating him like shit. But the flip side is that Kevin Spacey is making him into a tough Hollywood player at the same time. And we see as it goes back and forth between a current time when Frank Whaley takes Kevin Spacey hostage, to it flashes back to the first day, the first week, the first month, the first year. And you see Frank Whaley's character Guy transform from, as Benicio jokes, a farm boy into a Hollywood player, going from, he's wearing plaid shirts and he's got, nothing in his hair. And then he's eventually got his hair slicked back and he's smoking and he's got sweet suits on and he's bitching, making moves and bitching people out from, where he started as timid, etc. And then weaved in through that, there's a love story. It's got two layers. It's got this layer.
It does some things better than others.
Yeah, it's got the layer that people sell it as hey, it's like this, what you've always dreamed of, to your jerk boss, to tie him up and torture him and get revenge for what you want. But then at the same time, it's a commentary on I think it's still, I'm going to get in trouble for this, but I think it's still a valid commentary on kids not thinking that they have to pay their dues or work their way up through life. I think this is obviously an extreme case, and I don't think it's, what Kevin Spacey does is correct, but the concept of people not thinking they need to pay their dues or work their way up.
Yeah, they need to earn it.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah.
Some people would describe this as a dark comedy. Some people would describe this as the ultimate bad boss movie. And I think those are all elements of it, like you said, but there's a lot going on here. And it unfolds itself in an interesting way, like you said, because it starts off at the very beginning and you're seeing Guy with a group of his friends, and he's very much amongst his friends the big shot at this point. And so you don't realize at the beginning that this is a year later. He's been dealing with him for a year, and he is starting to gain confidence and become a power player of his own. And his friends see him.
They said that clearly in the movie. Benicio del Toro and Kevin Spacey both. Or this position creates legacy.
Right.
You
Right.
know,
Because
everybody
Del Toro,
who leaves here goes on to be a vice president of something or other.
right. Because then so the movie starts, he's with his friends. He gets fired essentially over the phone.
Yeah.
And that's what drives him, as far as we know at that point, to go to Spacey's house and take him hostage, which he does right off the bat. Movie starts, drops back to day one, and we meet this very fresh-faced young kid who, at first, when he meets Spacey's character seems very warm and inviting. He's one of those, like, he's a big balls guy. He wants to show his power, but he's not doing it to him yet. He's just, let me show you how this place runs, and you're going to be great and everything. And then the shit hits the fan when he asks, what does he ask for, Lloyd?
He asks for sweet and low for his coffee, and a guy delivers a little packet of Equal.
Yes.
And that's when the shit hits the fan.
The very first time the shit hits the fan is the sweet and low versus Equal problem. And as Mike said, and this is something that I could agree totally with Mike on, because I deal with it at work and I've dealt with it in the past with younger people. Detail-oriented is a big thing in jobs, and it's a big thing in his job. And when he gets Buddy the wrong sugar substitute, his argument is it shouldn't matter. And what
it's got the same ingredients in it.
Right.
Yeah, that's what he says.
He should have no argument. His argument should be, I was wrong and I won't do it again. Right. But he immediately goes for it has the same ingredients. What does it matter? And this is the first time that we see Buddy, Kevin Spacey's character, strip this kid down to fucking bolts. Again, Kevin Spacey in this movie, being the kind of actor he is, and I've always thought this about Kevin Spacey, and I'm not saying this because of what happened with him. I always thought this guy seems like he might be kind of a dick. He just always, there was something about him in his performances that made me think that can't all be acting. Like maybe he is. And if that's true, that's true. I don't know.
So good at channeling his inner asshole.
Yes. At the very least, if he is not an asshole in terms of that, then he channels it better than most actors, because there were so many times watching this movie that as he was talking to Guy, my neck hairs the hackles were popping up, because he doesn't just go to like teach him a lesson. He's hurtful and mean, right? Mike, don't you agree with that?
I do, but I was gonna say, as Kevin Spacey, if you remember in The Ref, when Dennis Leary takes him hostage in The Ref, he's a meek little guy from the suburbs.
Yeah, it's been a long time since I've seen that.
But it was it's him tied to a chair, and he's like a wuss in that one. Here he's a badass. So I think Spacey can act what he wants to be. But yeah, of course, he's great as a dick. He delivers his lines great. These are great lines. And it's interesting, one of the things I love about this is it's a very smart movie where everything that happens kind of pays off. So even from the beginning, when Kevin Spacey's like, shut up, listen, and learn, then you hear that repeated, and then, Guy eventually starts saying that. And there's a lot of great notes like that through this movie where people are...
Don't apologize, it makes you look weak.
Exactly. And then, and one of the greatest things, and I think it is go to the subplot that I really like, is the question that they ask of each other, and is, what do you really want? So, like, why are you acting like this? And it's the penultimate question of the movie, but it's also throughout. His girlfriend asks him that, early on, like, why did you come to Hollywood? Like, what are you really doing here? He has to ask himself that, when he's working with Spacey, and then Spacey gets to it at the end, which gets us to our, the big reveal, etc. But I think it's a very smart movie. I mean, not the best in the world, but it's, I don't think there's any kind of throwaway items. Everything continues to build and build and build, and it works its way throughout.
And you know what I noticed too is, like you said, he delivers his lines so well because he has really good lines to deliver. And when there's not a good line to deliver, it really stands out. Like when he's torturing him, and at one point he grabs him by the head, and he pulls his head back and he goes, "Ow, you're hurting my hair." That like took me out because it just didn't feel like what he would say.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
Well, the whole scene where we're going to jump around a little bit, but the whole scene where they get into the meat of him torturing him. So it starts that way. Then we go through day one through year one, and we see the growth of their relationship where even though it's adversarial to a point where, there's a lot of like friction and meanness on Buddy to Guy's side, you also see that Buddy does start to rely on Guy, and Guy starts to become the employee that Buddy wants, right? He does things that nobody else would do. He goes, so there's one point where there's a Time magazine article that mentions Buddy in a light that he doesn't find flattering, and he's trying to hire this director, and he's worried the director's going to see this before. So he tells Guy, they're in Los Angeles, go get every copy of this. It's Time magazine. Yeah, get every copy. And, he goes out and does it, and he spends all night ripping them up, and then he calls Buddy up and says, okay, I destroyed them. Oh, you burned them. No, I tore them all up. No, you have to burn them. And then they don't show it, but he obviously does it because he's becoming the employee that he wanted, right? But it's also at the same time eating away at his soul and, affecting him. Now he starts dating. Who does he start dating, Lloyd?
Well, here's where I have a little problem with the movie. He starts dating Michelle Forbes.
Mm-hmm.
The beautiful, powerful, amazing Michelle Forbes.
Who in the movie is a producer on the lot.
She is a producer, and she does want to get closer to Buddy, and she's using Guy to get there. But to me, that relationship that develops, it just didn't ring true 100% for me.
Well, Mike, so she tells Guy right off the bat, she's rude to him in their first encounter. It's a battle over a parking space.
Yep.
Then she
in an empty parking lot.
Yeah, in a totally empty parking lot. It's a power move. It's a total power move. But then she realizes that he's Buddy's assistant. And it's not even a game. She straight tells him, I need to be on your good side because you're going to get him scripts for me. We need to have a good relationship because I'm smart enough to know that to get to him, I got to get to you first.
Yep.
So, Mike, do you think that their relationship, which in the movie ends up blossoming, do you think that was a byproduct of her just wanting to get in with him and she actually fell for him? Or did you feel more like she was just using him and he was obviously falling for her?
I think it started that she was using him. And, I think it worked out, because they have the scene at the bar, their date, so to speak. And they kind of make the point to say, neither of us have any connections and we're not dating anybody. So it's kind of like, why don't we just hook up? But I think she does actually fall for him. And I think it's because he's actually helping her get her script made. He's doing rewrites, he's selling it, he's pushing it. It was his idea to get the hot director Foster Kane on it. So I think they kind of grew together. Where it rang untrue for me, to Lloyd's point, is we find out that she's dealt with Buddy for years and years and years. And if she knows what an asshole he is, I don't understand why she's such a dick to Guy about it. But she's really hard. She's like, you should tell Kevin Spacey, you should tell Buddy to go fuck off.
Yeah,
right?
she don't need a lot of things that she knows is going to cause him pain. Yeah,
and if you know in the past what an asshole Buddy is, then I don't think you would do that. I think you'd, and if you really cared for somebody, you'd be a little bit. I don't know that you'd act quite that way. It's important for the movie, but it's a little strange. It's a little strange.
She definitely does give him balls a lot over his, working for this guy. Now, unless the whole thing is she's just trying to say quit, get away from him. But it doesn't seem like she's necessarily doing that. It's almost just like she doesn't seem to understand.
Which
Like she
also
should.
wouldn't make sense because they're trying to get the movie made. So you wouldn't, if you're her, you don't dump him until the movie's like in the can, so to speak. You know what I
Right.
mean?
Yeah.
You wouldn't want to
And
mess
they're
up
talking
the
about going to
production.
Montana and living together.
Yeah.
I didn't buy it for a second.
I bought
Well,
that
no,
part for a second
I did.
because for me, that was, and we have to get to the end of the movie to get there, but that was almost like the last semblance of buddies or guys, like what could have been.
Yeah.
And what definitely is not at the end. This movie, the ending is fucked. So, yeah, I think
I bought that.
was
as
that.
well.
I bought that.
You're correct. I think you're correct. I think that's his naive dream. I mean, she actually even laughs at him.
Yeah.
She's like, oh yeah, sure, ha ha ha, Montana, whatever. But that's his. When you're first in love and whatever, you think monstrous things, and plus they're making a movie, so I can imagine, hey, we're gonna make millions, and then we'll do whatever we want. You know what I mean? Who knows what preceded that? Maybe some marijuana, some drugs. So get a little dreamlike,
little cocaina.
Well, yes,
little cocaina.
Yeah. See, speaking of cocaina,
for
me, I like Frank Whaley. But you know who I think would have been better in that role?
Oh, are we going to fantasy cast this movie?
Benicio del Toro.
Switch it.
He would have been much better in the Frank Whaley role.
I don't think so.
I would have bought everything.
Frank Whaley.
Didn't buy it with him because I just don't see Frank Whaley.
But go ahead, John. I think
he doesn't have the proclivity to be violent and to do all those things.
But he's the perfect. But he's the perfect little white kid from the suburbs or even a farm upstate New York. Like Benicio del Toro is.
That's why he would have been a wuss at the end. He's
kind of a, I don't know. He's got something to him. That's he's a bit of a badass no matter what he does. I don't know that I would buy him as a nobody from the suburbs.
No, they could have rewritten that a little.
Yeah, true. But I mean, as he's certainly a more powerful actor.
But I think what you were saying is right, Mike. Is Whaley's character is supposed to be this film school nerd, right? And that's part of his allure. It ends up being part of his job set with Buddy is that he knows a lot about movies and he kind of can talk to that. So it starts off very much as you see him being this like weirdly, like not weirdly dressed, but like cheaply dressed, nerdy kid, like Mike said earlier. And then by the end of the movie, with terrible hair. And then by the end of the movie, he's wearing power suits. And obviously we'll get into the end. He's doing things that you would never expect from the beginning of the movie.
Yeah. And he's smoking, the hair's gelled back. He's really made a transformation. But, I actually connected with him in his film school. Like the scene of them in the bar and he starts talking about
the memories and
the big, the big movies.
I definitely bought that 100%.
Yeah. But I feel that way. Like I remember in my childhood when I saw Indiana Jones and when I saw, Star Wars and these other things, it's etched in my memory.
I'm right there with you. And I know no movie can be perfect. Whenever I see a mistake in a movie or a television show that I think it's a factual mistake that I think could have been saved easily, I wonder two things. Was it a purposeful mistake or did someone not fact check? And he says in this scene, he equates his childhood to movies. And he is summer of 1988, Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade. That is 1989, motherfucker. All right? And I only want to point that out because that line bothered me. But maybe that's just Frank Whaley's character remembering incorrectly. So I'm going to let that go. But George Huang, if you did not read you could have just spent like one extra minute on your research because Indy 3 was 89 there, buddy.
although there was no IMDb back then.
Yes.
So he couldn't just find it out. Yep.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
But that's one of the things I liked. I liked how they melded, like he talked about Indiana Jones, but then he talk about a fictional Buddy Ackerman movie. And then, in the beginning, he's talking about Shelley Duvall, and
that was good.
And she's an obviously, which again I think is perfect. That none of his friends know who it was, and then he has to finally say the Poseidon Adventure, and they're like, oh yeah.
I wonder if any bit of that story was true.
Yes.
Yeah.
I was, doing research on this movie, and in the IMDb, at least, as real as that it could be, that Shelley Duvall story is true. She brought her Oscars to an audition, apparently, to like show a producer. Like, I don't know the result, but it's a true story, supposedly. Hollywood true story. And I like Mike said, I like the fact that they melded stuff like that with the stuff where it was like, you got the Buddy Ackerman is like the Joel Silver kind of the time. He's like the wham bam action guy. So they give him a definite, identity in this. He's not, and he even says, right, isn't he? He has the whole monologue where he's talking about certain types of movies, and you can't work with a female director because they ovulate. Yeah. Like, obvious.
I love that whole scene.
That does for a 3-month shoot.
I love that scene too, because I love David Lean, and I love when he's like, he's just unavailable.
Right.
Yeah. His guy's like, isn't he dead? He's like, no, he's just unavailable. But
he has a lot of good lines like that.
Yeah.
Oh, by the way, Foster Kane. That's 2/3 of the Citizen Kane.
Yeah,
yes.
Charles Foster.
Charles Foster
Kane. Yep, I caught that as well. That was I think he did a great job. This is obviously George's, the director's, everything he had poured into it, but I think it all comes together quite nicely. And we start to find out more, more as we go on. So, unlike some other bosses, and actually, Spacey kind of makes fun of himself, because what was that movie they did? Horrible Bosses, I think, right? 10 years ago, where literally just a bunch of people play shitty bosses. We find out that, he was in a similar situation. His wife got killed, and that kind of broke him, And again, I love how all that stuff came together, because early on, you see him with wind-up toys. And then later it comes around that his wife who got killed, bought him those wind-up toys. There's just a lot of, I think the script is really, really tight in that sense, that there's everything you see makes sense, and it's building and it's going somewhere,
Until the very end of the movie, real quick, Lloyd, until the very end of the movie, I didn't know if his stories about his wife were true or not.
That's what I was going to say.
Yeah. Then the end, to me, solidified it, because at the end of the movie, we see a major shift in Guy's character, everything. And for a bit, Lloyd, you thought that he was lying to him, right? About the wife and everything?
I didn't think he was lying, but I was wondering, is he lying just to play onto his, his sympathies?
Yeah.
But then I did recall the little wind-up toys that he was playing on the desk.
Well, but still, that could be part of a lie too. He knows.
Elaborate lie.
Well,
yeah, I know.
But it could be the idea of almost usual suspects using things that he has around just to, yeah, my wife, those wind-up toys? My wife got me those. Oh, shit, he has wind-up toys. He's putting this all together. Coffee cup bottom, boom, picture on the wall. Oh, shit. Go chase that guy out the hallway. And up until the end, I was kind of curious. Was the whole story, so he tells a story while he's being tortured about how he became the way he is. He was a guy years ago who worked for a buddy years ago, and he was doing some menial task, wrapping Christmas gifts, very much like burning time magazines, essentially. And his wife went out to go buy all the gifts for their family. They agreed not to get each other gifts, and she's murdered. He tells a story about how she's murdered, and he goes and identifies her body, and he gets her very last gift, which they had said they weren't going to give each other gifts because they were too poor. And it was essentially a bunch of wind-up toys that throughout this whole movie he's been playing with in his office. He flicks them off the desk and just fucking with them the whole time. And what was the sentiment behind the wind-up toys that she said?
That was the gift that his wife got him.
She said, don't ever forget to wind down, I think.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
You work really hard, go home and relax.
Right.
And, and then in the end, Guy says the same thing back to his buddy. His buddy's like, hey, this guy gets we're saving spoilers from 1995, but his guy gets a promotion, and his buddy's like, we got to go out and celebrate, and he's like, no, I have to wrap Christmas gifts,
right?
Mimicking Guy's or Kevin Spacey's story,
right?
Because he's sold that out.
We're kind of jumping over a lot of the scenes in this movie, but
we are.
It's essentially a bunch of abuse that just, and whether you look at it as abuse or character building, it definitely is moving a character a certain way. There's a scene where after Buddy and Guy, it's like South Park, hey, Buddy, hey, Guy. Buddy and Guy, a scene where Guy successfully sells Spacey's character on Dawn's screenplay, and he's excited, and he's done all these rewrites on it, and he knows, because he knows the phone systems, that when Buddy...
But that's another great part of the script, because when he walks in the door, Benicio del Toro explains the phone system to him. So Benicio del Toro explains it to you that if it's blinking, it's on, and then if it's solid, that means it's on. And so that later, when we see that it's not on, we know that Kevin Spacey's lying.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I thought you were going to say.
I think you're making, right?
Yeah, I was. I was making that point. I was like, oh shit, was he not lying?
No, he's lying.
he sees the light is on green, which means he's talking to his superior and saying, about the script.
Yeah,
and then Cyrus. And then the light goes dead, right? And
meaning
at that point,
call's over.
Phone call's done. And what is he saying, Lloyd?
Then he keeps saying, oh, yeah, Guy, he's great. He really did a lot of work on this. You're going to love him. He's just such a help for me. All the time, he's just speaking to dead air.
Yep.
And Guy knows it.
Right.
And then there's a great cut back to now, and while Guy is torturing Kevin Spacey, and he's like, you never told him shit, because they cut right back to it. And then Kevin Spacey says, well, I did. And they kind of go back and forth. So
there's a great moment in the torture scene. So there's different people that people say this movie's about in Hollywood. And one of them is Joel Silver. Is that it's been said this is about Joel Silver, because I think Wang worked for him at one point in some capacity. Mm-hmm. And the only thing that makes me think that might be true is when Guy is torturing Buddy, he's beating the shit out of his face, he's bleeding. He takes a handful of salt and says, I saw this in one of your movies, and he rubs salt all over him. That's Lethal Weapon, which is a Joel Silver movie.
Yeah.
They do that to Danny Glover at one point. And there's also a line, am I wrong, or just being a film guy, I don't remember the line exactly, but there's a Reservoir Dogs line in this movie. I almost think when he's beating him in the chair, almost verbatim, Spacey's character says, I think one of the lines said by the cop in the chair. Like, I wish I'd written this down, but he says something like, oh, you stop beating me, you fucking psycho. And it almost seemed line for line, and even situationally, I can't speak to that 100%, but I'm going to say go back and watch that and check out Reservoir Dogs. I almost think that they took that one line out. Almost maybe he knew Tarantino. I don't know.
It could be. I mean, I definitely thought of Reservoir Dogs watching that scene.
Yeah. And this guy, Wang, apparently the person that did Wong, I'm sorry, whatever it is, tell him to make this movie was Robert Rodriguez.
Yeah.
He's worked with Rodriguez a lot as a producer.
Oh, has he?
Yes.
Okay. All right. I watched what I watched last week? I watched the much forgotten Robert Rodriguez produced Predators. And I'll tell you, it's a fun movie. It's not Predator, all right? But it's just fun. It's a fun action movie. He didn't direct it.
It's not as terrible as the newest one.
I rewatched that recently.
Oh God.
Yeah, it's
I didn't like that. You liked it though, didn't you?
I love the Predator so much that I'm willing to put up with a lot of bullshit, right? So there were things in that movie I liked, but so I saw it in the theaters. I didn't think it was great, but when I left, I went, you know what? That was enjoyable for what kind of movie it was. When I watched it like a year later here last week, I was playing on my phone half the time. I was like, yeah, this is not muy bueno.
Yeah.
That was terrible. The super predator that was like 12 feet tall, and all that other stuff. It was, but anyway, so to get back to this movie, I thought, I just thought it was really well done throughout. I thought there was another great transition when Guy throws a mirror when he's torturing Kevin Spacey. Kevin Spacey starts laughing like in a broken laugh that it's you got 7 years bad luck, and then they cut to Kevin Spacey laughing because he's so excited about the script. Again, I love the way he put it all together here.
During the movie, there's a bunch of different women that he keeps on like making rendezvous with and having Guy set them up. And during the movie, I just thought it was the same woman over and over again. And then I was kind of reading about the movie. It's all different women with M first names.
Mitzi.
Yeah.
Yep.
What was another one? Missy.
And they always have to get their cute little butt over to his house.
Get your
by
cute
midnight.
little butt over here at 12 o'clock.
Yeah, 12 o'clock. Yeah.
Which is why Guy knew that she would be there at 12 o'clock.
So if we're going to work to the end.
Yeah.
So in the opening scene, when we see Guy break, so to speak, he's on the phone and we don't hear anything, but he's listening to something, and you just see his face fall and he's upset. And we have to assume that's what made him crack, and he's going to go torture Kevin Spacey. So
then we do hear that conversation at the end of the movie.
Yes. We come to find out that Dawn...
The ancient 90s problem of call waiting gone wrong. Suddenly it's a party line.
True. But, and then we find out Dawn's coming over at midnight, probably to fuck Kevin Spacey to get him to do whatever she wants for the movie.
And she's doing it for him. She's kind of offering herself up to Spacey's character. You're kind of thinking it's to save Guy, right? Like she's trying to do one for him.
Yes.
She wants to get the movie done knowing that it will boost Guy.
Right.
It will get him a new position or get him something under his belt so that he can go on and actually not be an assistant, write movies or whatever he'd like to do.
She shows up and he's heard this conversation of her making the plans to come over. This is why he's there. And he pulls a gun out. Well, he's had a gun, pulls the gun out again. And at one point, Dawn and Buddy are fighting it out, and he shoots a warning shot in the air to shut them up. And what happens then, Mike? What eventually
I want to start one part before that, though.
Yeah.
We get back to that core where Kevin Spacey's character says to Guy, "What is this really about?" Saying you're not just pissed about me being a dick. What's it really about? And that's when it begins to unravel that it's really because he's in essence brokenhearted because Dawn is going to come fuck Guy.
Right.
And
isn't that right around when she does show up?
Yeah. And so they fight it out. There's some good I like the Lucy quote that Kevin Spacey has. That you got some splaining to do.
Oh, yeah.
She comes in and she's like, "What the fuck?" Because Kevin Spacey's tied to a chair and he's beat the fuck.
His hair's all fucked up.
Yeah, and Kevin Spacey says, "You got some splaining to do," like the old Lucy show, which I'm sure nobody knows these days. But eventually, Dawn and Kevin Spacey's character, our buddy, are arguing it out, and then she finally says, "Fuck it. He's such an asshole. Shoot him. Just fuck it. Shoot Kevin Spacey." And Kevin Spacey says, "Fine, shut the fuck up," and turns to him. And he talks to Guy and says, "This is your last shot. What are you going to do? What do you really want?" And then we find out in the end, there's a cut. You hear a gunshot. There's a cut. And then
Doesn't he tell him you have to do this? You have to shoot?
You have to make a choice. Yeah, he's like, you have to make a choice right now. You have to, this is your last chance. This is the last thing you can do for yourself. He makes references that, you're not a hot piece of ass like Dawn is. You can't sleep your way to the top. You can't do whatever. You have to make a choice right now. Then we hear a gunshot. Everything fades to black. We fade back up. We're back in the office.
Well, before we're back in the office, we get a little scene that we got in the beginning too, where it's Guy outside of the house with the police, and they're wheeling a body in a body bag away. And that's all we see.
Which is exactly how the movie starts.
Right. And
with
we
Dawn
don't see
as the narrator.
Right.
And she specifically says, and again, tie in, sometimes these stories are about love. And she says, this is not one of those stories.
Yeah.
That would be something I would notice more on a second viewing, because I know she narrated it and I did not pick that line up.
Mm-hmm.
That line right off the bat tells you what he's going to do, and you just don't know it, you know?
Yep.
So what did he do, Lloyd?
Well, apparently he turned and shot Dawn and killed her. And that was in order to get out of the situation, buck responsibility, further his career.
So he's made his choice.
Yeah.
His choice of love, Montana, maybe, an ideal future, not in the movie industry, or becoming essentially or eventually the next Buddy, possibly.
Right.
Yep.
And he chooses, as they would have said in Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade, released in 1989, poorly, in my opinion. And I got to be honest, it may have made more sense for me if I had paid attention to that line in the beginning, but this was the part of the movie that, although I can appreciate a dark ending, pissed me off. Like,
yeah.
But there was no out the other way. So if he shoots Kevin Spacey out of love, then everything's ruined. He goes to jail because he killed his boss.
He could have not killed anybody.
Yeah, he could have done that.
And gone to jail.
He could have not killed his boss. But then again, he's going to go to jail
right,
for tying up and torturing. But what they do is they spin it, and it's a nice work, because one of Guy's buddies comes in and goes, man, I can't believe it. That story's crazy. And they spin a story where Dawn kidnapped or ties up and tortures Buddy. And the reverse, that Guy walks in and shoots Dawn to save Buddy. And Buddy, knowing that he's molded and broken, in essence, Guy to where where he wants him to be, like himself. And also that Guy is now under his thumb and owns him, gets him a promotion, but will forever have his thumb on him.
Gets him a promotion, comes into the office. So Guy is in his office, talking to Manny Moe or Jack, whichever one. The
Guy is in full buddy mode at this
full
point.
buddy mode.
Yeah.
And he has a conversation with the Jerry Levine character. And I like the scene that ends the movie where Spacey walks in, Buddy walks in, and he's wearing a hat because his hair is all fucked up because he shaved his head, cut his head up bad. And you've got to assume, they don't say, but this has got to be within a week or so of that happening, because there's still scars, and obviously he's wearing the hat, so he hasn't had time to fix his hair. But he walks in, and as Guy is sitting in his office, he gives him the slightest look and a head nod, like, come into my office. But, like, it's the first time in the whole movie that I felt that Buddy was sincerely accepting Guy into anything. Like, it seemed like the nod of a person talking to a peer, as opposed to talking to an underling, especially when he spends 80% of this movie calling Guy the stupidest fucker on earth. And I mean, we didn't really sell that part of this movie, and it's almost better not to, because we want you to go check this movie out. The verbal dynamics of the abuse that Kevin Spacey doles out on him could be a whole episode by itself.
And that's where you get the concept that this is a comedy, because it really is some funny, dark humor, because Kevin Spacey's lines are great. I mean, they're really funny. They're really biting. And in a dark way, it's amusing to hear him, yelling at, dressing down at Guy. But you're right. By the end, he doesn't have to say anything. But I think it also kind of says, it speaks to him now being under his thumb, that he just has to give a nod and he knows, but Guy has to go. You know, he tells his friend,
Yep.
I gotta go. And then I liked that they go into Kevin Spacey's office, and then they just turn the mic up to the noise in the office, and life goes on. So this life-changing thing has happened to Guy. He's become someone else, but life goes on, just like life went on for Kevin Spacey. Not good.
Right. Something new.
Something new.
I do want to point out one more scene that I did like in this movie. So I did, like I said, miss the initial opening dialogue about this isn't a love story. But what I did like, and they don't get into it too much other than the opening scene in the restaurant, is when Guy is, beating and berating Buddy. Buddy tells him, he's like, don't think I don't know that you're acting bigger than you are. And they show this real quick little snippet of like him at the diner with his friends and kind of like a few other things of him being a big shot. You know what I mean? Like knowing that he has it in him too. It was so quick. And he says it once and they show this quick little barrage of scenes and like, don't think I don't hear what you've been saying and what you've been saying about me. Everybody talks to me. And I thought that was a real indicator at that point that Guy wasn't necessarily just this poor character to feel bad for. That was where I started to feel like, oh shit, maybe I didn't think he's going to kill Dawn, but and once the gun came out and the scene was blocked a certain way. So you realize he had a choice. I went, he is not going to kill Buddy. He's going to kill the girl. But
there was also that good scene though, too, where he comes in. It's at the end when Guy has fully become an asshole, just like Buddy. But Kevin Spacey walks into his office and Guy is on his headset and he's yelling at somebody and he tells somebody, "Shut up, listen, and learn."
Yeah.
And then Kevin Spacey comes in and is like, "What are you doing?" And then he's like, "Oh, nothing." And I think even thought it was a great scene that Spacey like takes a tissue out and he's like wiping his head. like ew, like this is in your ear.
8:30 is not 8 o'clock.
Yes. Yeah. But again, you have that circular use of the language throughout and it's building whatever. I just think it's really, really, really smart. It speaks to me of not only, probably George Wong lived this life, but it speaks to somebody who worked on a script a lot. Like they really worked on the script and thought every scene and everything out throughout. So obviously I'm a fan. So
all right, well that leads us into the end where we'll rate this real quick and talk about a couple other things. Lloyd, had you ever seen this before?
I've never seen it before. No.
Okay. I know I had seen bits on HBO probably in 1998, but again, this was my first time. Mike, was this something you saw back then? You're a big movie guy. So
I did not see it, on initial release. I saw it on VHS.
Okay.
And it's something that really resonates with me. You had mentioned that, working in your working life and working in retail, that you just see a lot of these traits of these people. This is how people act. You start to learn that people only care about themselves and life is shitty and you got to actually make a choice about what you want to do. And it really resonates with me. I bought it on a VHS. I bought it on, this is my second copy of DVD. I wish they'd put it on Blu-ray or something because it's not the cleanest, but they haven't. But I watch it probably once every 2 years.
Okay.
I'm a big fan.
Well, I don't know. I'm sure you know this because I found out in research, this was made into a play. Which, as I watched it, I did not know that. I found out the day after, and I guess in its initial run, Christian Slater played Buddy, and I don't know if it was the same run, but Matt Smith, who's known as the 11th Doctor in Doctor Who, played Guy, I guess in the British version. But as I watched this movie, did either of you get the feeling, that creepy fucking painting behind you? Yeah. Did either of you get the feeling maybe the first time you saw this movie, I know it might be harder for you to remember, Mike, but that this seemed like a two-person play filmed?
It didn't seem like being more of a film nerd. I've seen plays throughout my life, but I'm not a theater buff by any stretch. it struck me more as just a low budget movie, but which I can see can work as a play because there's very little, there are very little sets. So I could obviously see how this could work as a play, as you have a set inside the office, Buddy's office, and then, like guy's desk right out front. And then every once in a while you cut to Buddy's house. Like you don't need the opening scene at a restaurant. I mean, I think it's great, but you basically could do it in 2 sets. And like you said, you only have 2 main characters and then the female lead. It looks like I see how that could happen for sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
Lloyd, did you feel that way at all? Like this could have been a play prior?
Yeah, I did read also that it was a play, and I could certainly see how you could make that for everything that Mike said. Probably something that I would see.
Yeah, I guess I don't know if it's still going. I think it said that it was a play like in between 2006 and 10 was its main run. But hey, that's like 15 years after the movie. So that's pretty impressive that it has that kind of staying power. So speaking of staying power, scale of 0 to 5, 0 being 0, 5 being 5, quarter scale available. I'm going to go first, then we'll go to Lloyd, then we'll go to Mike Simonetta. I'm going to give this a solid, I'm going to use the Sir John word solid, 3.0. I give this a 3.0. I enjoyed this movie a lot. I'm disappointed in Guy's choice, but it works for the film. If he didn't make that choice, I might like him as a character more, but it wouldn't make it the same movie. It would definitely be a much more Hollywood ending. And this is a dark fucking ending. That's, this is the time, right? 90s indie cinema. This is a time of like the dark kind of ending, or not necessarily the happy ending all the time. Lloyd, what do you give 1994/95's Swimming with Sharks?
All right. I did not fall asleep.
Oh.
So that's an automatic 2.5.
2.5?
Okay, that's the starting point.
Nice. Nice.
It got up to a 3.0, and by the end, it was down to 2.75.
So you were disappointed in his choice?
Yeah, for the things I've already mentioned.
Right.
I didn't really buy the relationship. I did not buy his transformation. I maybe if they had shown some proclivity to violence from his character prior, but I just didn't buy that you would go from being pissed off to doing that.
Well, did you have the director's cut where he beats that dog to death halfway through?
No, I missed that.
Okay,
one.
all right. He beats a German Shepherd to death with his bare fists. It's gross.
But to me, it definitely passes the smell test of this is truly what it was like to be in that time. I don't know if it's still like that. I'd hate to think that it was still like that after the whole Me Too movement and all that. I really appreciated the Kevin Spacey stuff. I really liked his acting.
Yeah. He's
just incredible.
Again,
it's a shame he's a dick and he did what he did.
Yeah. But if we're going to talk about it strictly for a performance, he was awesome. And I can't really picture anybody playing that role. I can picture other people playing the guy role. I can't picture anybody else playing the buddy role. Yeah, and I like Frank Whaley.
Best guy for that.
Yeah. All right. Our guest, Mike from Connecticut Cult Classics. Now, before we get Mike's rating, if you're interested in Swimming with Sharks, you can see it 2 different ways right now. It is on Amazon Prime, a $3.99 rental. That's how I got it. It got a 3.0. If anything goes below a 250, I charge the guest. So, Mike, you're off the hook. The other thing,
I didn't know that rule. Okay.
Mike also has apparently a DVD copy, so we'll be giving out his address later on.
You can come by.
He has no socials, so you've got to write him an old school prison letter, mail it to him
on a postcard.
On a postcard. He'll mail you the DVD Netflix style. Remember when Netflix, they still do that, by the way. Self-addressed stamped envelope, postage back to Mike, and you can check it out. But it is available on Amazon Prime for $3.99, and it was worth it. It was worth $3.99 for sure. So, Mike, scale of 0 to 5. I doubt you'll be saying 0. What do you give Swimming with Sharks?
So I again, I'm going to go solid as well. For me, it's a solid 4.
Okay.
It's not a flawless movie, but it's one I and it speaks to being low budget. There's a lot of parts in it that kind of scream low budget, but I think it's really well acted. It really resonates with me. I think it's a great watch. And I think, you know, the nice thing about it is there's so much more to it if it's not sold as a comedy, where you guys have talked about it. Like, you know, people make decisions, life happens. You come away with something here at this movie. It's not, you know, as you said, not just Hollywood. And it's also not fluff where, like, you know, a rom-com, you know, nothing really ever happens. It's just everybody's happy at the end, etc. I think it really has something to say. You may not agree with it. I actually have friends that I've shown this movie. A good friend, actually, we were talking about it because I was telling her I was coming on this podcast, and she's like, you're still wrong. Life isn't how Kevin Spacey sees it in that movie. And I'm like, we are going to have to agree to disagree.
Yeah.
But so we go there. So
make sure she listens to this episode. Maybe it'll shed more light on it. Maybe.
Yeah. No, she's a very upbeat young lady. So
she'll go, that Lloyd guy really hammered it home for me.
There you go. So I give it a solid 4. And I think it's still, you know, as you mentioned, Lloyd, with the Me Too, it's still prescient today. I mean, God, Harvey Weinstein's actually worse than Kevin Spacey, for Christ's sake. So there might have been a time that people would be like, this stuff doesn't really happen. And now we know that, you know, worse happens. So, you know, I think it's interesting. It's obviously a time capsule of the 90s with the technology and some of the fashions and stuff. But I still think it's a great movie, great cast. They lucked out by getting, you know, great people early on in their careers, and I really enjoy it. Like I said, I've owned it for years and years and go back to it like once every 2 years or so. So,
all right.
And I didn't know that rule about paying you back if you didn't have the movie. So I suppose that Larry owes you a lot of money then.
Greasy Strangler alone. Yeah. No, Greasy Strangler was free on Amazon Prime, so he lucked out.
Okay. Yeah. Well, I listened to his last one there with Dead Alive, and that didn't go well.
I loved it. I loved Dead Alive.
Yeah.
It was these two assholes that had a problem with it. I thought it was great.
I think that's a fun movie too.
Oh, totally fun. So,
Weekend.
Mike, what's that?
Weekend. We didn't get to any of the totals.
Oh, shit. Yeah. Let's do that. Forgot all about that.
Yeah. All right. So the weekend it was released, I'll give you the top 10. This was number 23, by the way.
Well, yeah.
It's on there.
Yeah.
It existed.
Yeah, exactly.
Number 10 was Tommy Boy. No, and I'm going with the 95 release.
Yeah.
Because there is no information on 94. Don Juan DeMarco, number 9. Jury Duty, number 8.
Oh, Jesus.
Muriel's Wedding, number 7. A Goofy Movie, number 6. Rob Roy, number 5. Kiss of Death, which I saw in the movie theaters. Number 4.
Is that Nicolas Cage when he was all buff?
Yes.
Yeah, that was bad.
That was the second movie I saw with my wife.
Oh, nice.
The first one was number 3, Pulp Fiction.
Oh, that's right. We talked about how awkward that butt fucking scene must have been on a first date.
Number 2, Bad Boys.
The first
one. Wow, the first one.
And number 1 that weekend, While You Were Sleeping.
Oh, John loves that movie. That's that weird Sandra Bullock movie that John loves.
Yeah. See, so I would have rather watched Swimming with Sharks than easily half of those.
Except for a Goofy movie. You would probably...
You know, of course.
I'll give you the top 5 of that year.
Yeah, what's top 5 in 95? Hold on. I'm going to tell you what the top movie of 95 was. Well, no, it probably wasn't. Toy Story's in there.
Toy Story is number 1.
Yeah. Yes, I'm good at this shit. 95, big movies, 95. Oh, Batman Forever was probably in the top 5.
Number 2.
Oh, and I'm not looking at shit. Summer of 95. What else came out? Oh, boy. All right. Oh, 95. Was Heat in the top 5? Probably not. Too long. Didn't make a lot of money, probably.
I'll tell you what. It's got my favorite number in it.
Die Hard with a Vengeance.
Nope.
No. All right. Your favorite number is, I'm blanking on this. What is your favorite number?
13.
13. 13 ghosts?
Apollo 13.
Oh, Houston. We have a problem. 3. Okay.
Great movie.
Number 4, Pocahontas.
Oh, Jesus.
And number 5, Ace Ventura, When Nature Calls.
The sequel.
Oh.
Yeah.
Swimming with Sharks, $229.
Hey, that doesn't box office don't mean shit.
That's right.
We like to do the box office with these episodes just to kind of give you a timestamp of what was out at that point.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Before we go, Mike, I want to invite you back, but I want to invite you back for a different type of episode.
Nope.
So we're going to be starting something new. I don't know if you'll be on it, the first one or not, but we're starting a new series here called, Lloyd, what was it again? It was Trash, Tolerable.
Trash, Tolerable, or Treasure?
Or Treasure, okay?
Is that what we're going with?
So we're going to go with that. If we change it, you heard the original name here. So Trash, Tolerable, or Treasure. And what we're going to do is we're going to pick a movie that is widely considered a bomb, either through box office or more likely word of mouth. Think of movies like Superman versus Batman or movies like The Wild Wild West. And we are going to do very much similar to what we do on the Invitational. We're gonna pick the movie. You're gonna come on. Mm-hmm. We're gonna watch that movie and talk about it and talk about things we liked in them, things we didn't like. And then at the end, we're gonna rate it as this is truly trash, as it's known for. This was tolerable. Maybe I didn't hate it. I ain't gonna own it. Or this is fucking good and this is a treasure. So is that something you'd want to do with us?
For sure.
All right. Sure. We've already got a list, a country mile long of movies.
Wow, yeah.
So there's some good ones in there. The first episode we will be doing with our buddy Andrew Morgan that we talked about for the Nomcast is Waterworld. We'll be talking about Waterworld. So
Waterworld.
But we'll pick something good for you, Mike, and have you on real soon.
Hopefully not 3 hours of No, of course. That sounds fun. Actually, there's plenty of being a horror movie, genre movie lover, there's a ton of stuff I like that would be considered trash.
Me too. So. And that's why I thought it would be a good little experiment. All right.
I spit on your grave.
Only part 3. That's truly trash, right?
the first one's legit, and it's shot in Connecticut, so we got to give it props.
That's right. We are a Connecticut podcast for all of you out there that listen and don't know where we're at.
That's right.
All right. So, Lloyd, could you say see you so I don't have to look at that fucking creepy thing over your shoulder anymore? Mike, thank you again. I appreciate it.
Where's that confounded bridge? See ya.
Nice Zeppelin reference, by the way.
It's over, Johnny. It's over. Nothing is over. Nothing. You just don't turn it off.